Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today on Spotfire Copilot 1.1.0. My name is Ahmad Fatahi. I'm a Senior Director of Data Science at Spotfire. I'm being joined by my esteemed colleague, Andrew Berich, who's a Senior Staff Data Scientist at Spotfire. Before we proceed, if you have any questions during this webinar in the live session, please don't hesitate to put your question in the chat. If you're watching later, the recording, you can always email us at askdatascience@spotfire.com. It's further down in the presentation as well, or you can always reach out to us in our forums. This is the standard confidentiality and disclaimer statement of Spotfire. So to start, as you probably know, if you're joining the webinar, it's totally fine. If you're not familiar with Spotfire, you'll still see and learn quite a bit. Spotfire is a visual data science platform. We serve a lot of deep vertical use cases from the energy sector to life sciences to financial sector, high-tech manufacturing, and a few other verticals. And with all of that greatness that has been in the works for a couple decades in the largest companies in the world with visual and advanced data science models, Spotfire Copilot offers a natural language layer between the human and the Spotfire to augment that experience between the human and the core Spotfire platform, as we will see in a little bit. So let's dig a little bit deeper and see what exactly Spotfire Copilot is, how it helps you. We'll then see a demo fairly quickly, and then we'll jump under the hood and to the action. Spotfire Copilot is a assistant. You can think of it as an assistant. There's a reason we call it Copilot and not the pilot, because the whole thought process and the design and experience is with the human in the loop. And it's custom built for Spotfire, meaning there's a deep integration with Spotfire API, which distinguishes it significantly from bland vanilla LLM-based large language-based model out there. The whole point, the whole value, if there's one thing you want to take away out of this session today, is that everything is revolving around efficiency. Any Spotfire user, regardless of the level of experience, can take a lot of value by being more efficient out of Spotfire Copilot. If you're new, you can get to the value point that you start to see value coming out of your experience with Spotfire much, much faster, as we'll see. And if you're even an advanced user, you may already know a lot of things, how things are done in Spotfire, but you can get them done faster, and you can have a more joyful experience by directing your energy toward the brainier part, the less obvious part, less straightforward parts of your job, and leave the more boilerplate or standard parts to Spotfire Copilot. Another big design principle we had in mind was we wanted it to be as adherent as possible to the high standards of data privacy and security, and make it as easy as possible for our customers to adopt it. So the current model as we speak today is that we offer this extension for download, but at the end of the day, it will become every customer's own instance of Spotfire Copilot. And by the same token, or along the same lines of thinking, the design, the architecture is agnostic. It's not tied to one large language model, LLM, or another. That's again to cater to various needs or regulatory requirements across the industry. Now let's talk about the actual features or use cases that Spotfire Copilot addresses. Starting from the top, that's the general or typical conversation or interaction that you would expect to be had with a large language model. Basically, the conversational aspect exists there. But moving on quickly to the second one, that's actually one of the second and third boxes here. These are some of the quite popular features after talking to several customers. Not only it provides a conversational and more detailed and faster, more efficient way of getting help about the product Spotfire itself, instead of side by side. If you want a comparison, instead of the end user of Spotfire having to leave the product or search the internet or ask a colleague. Also, we have enabled a feature where every customer, in their own confines of private and secure environment, they can upload their own proprietary and internal documents. Let's say you are an energy customer and you have many internal documents explaining the definitions of your variables across your upstream processes, definitions of individual deep variables for your porosity or rate of penetration. Fast forward to use time. If your end user receives a dashboard from a colleague who has created it, they're looking at it, they're trying to use it. They, for a second, they're not sure exactly the meaning of definition of the variable on the y-axis. Instead of, again, having to leave the product or ask a colleague, as long as that definition is within one of those documents that's been provided to Spotfire Copilot in the backend and indexed, they can immediately ask the question, have the conversation with Spotfire Copilot right there, right where the analysis lives. The interrogation of data, the fourth use case, is where the end user asks questions about the data within Spotfire. So imagine that there is a collection of sensor data collected in a table in Spotfire. The user wants to see if there is any association with any one of these measurements with a specific event of interest, such as failure, for example. They can, in natural language, have that conversation. Other charts helps the user create charts within Spotfire based on their needs. We support in this version 3 specific types, as we will see: bar chart, line chart, and scatter plots. And we also allow the end user to modify them through natural language. That's, again, extreme efficiency, added efficiency for especially newer users. We're also working on adding a increased number of support charts. Last but not least, for your more advanced users who are in the business of writing and developing their own data functions, Spotfire Copilot helps them in a very similar manner that GitHub Copilot helps developers to get to 60% or 80% of the way in a matter of literally 10 seconds, 15, 20 seconds. Beautiful, clean code, commented already. All the user needs to do is to work on the more advanced parts. You have to check it. Again, going back to the concept of Copilot as opposed to pilot, everything has to be double-checked. But the expectation is that by the end of the process, the time that would have taken, and by the same token, the employee experience, the expert experience in the field of going from zero to having the data function ready, has been extremely improved, faster, and more joyful. Now that we have seen high level what Spotfire Copilot is and what features we have included in it, I'd like to pass it on to my colleague, Andrew, who will show us a demo of Spotfire Copilot, looking at OEE, or overall equipment efficiency in a manufacturing department. Andrew?
I'm Andrew Barrage. I'm a principal data scientist here at Spotfire, and I'm one of the Copilot developers. I'm super excited to show you the latest developments in Copilot and give you some real-world examples of how we can use it. Imagine I'm new to Spotfire and I really don't know what I'm doing. I can use Copilot, first of all, to show you how to use Spotfire. So I might ask a fairly simple question, first of all, like, how do I join data in Spotfire? So let me put that in here and ask the question. And what this is doing is it's using a concept called retrieval augmented generation. So we've loaded the Spotfire documentation into Copilot, and the large language model, or LLM, is using that to make sure it's giving us some really nice answers. So here we've got a step-by-step set of instructions as to how to perform various actions in Spotfire. Okay, so that's the first thing I'd like to show you. Now I'm interested in looking at OEE, or overall equipment effectiveness. Now let's imagine we're new to this field, and actually in truth, I pretty much new to overall equipment effectiveness, so I don't really understand it. So I'm going to switch mode now to OEE analytics. Now this is a data set that we've loaded that Copilot can mine and query for information. So let me just ask, what is OEE? Now, again, this is using retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, to help the large language model answer the question. So it says that overall equipment effectiveness is a major key performance indicator, KPI, used in manufacturing. And we're looking at measuring the effectiveness and efficiency of equipment. And of course, we could go into much more detail. But I'd just like to show you something that's fairly new. Some of our customers ask whether Copilot can work in other languages. So I will take this question, which is, quels sont les avantages de l'OEE? And please excuse my French accent. I'm just going to paste that in French, just to show you what happens if I should dare to ask a question in a different language. And now Copilot will send that to the LLM, and it will use retrieval augmented generation again. But this time, it should, if we just wait a second, it should give us the answer in French. So it's almost like it's, language agnostic now. So using the latest LLMs, it just responds in the language to which you ask, which I think is pretty clever. Okay, so that shows you those initial modes. So we looked at answering questions around how to do things in Spotfire, and also giving us an introduction to OEE. So just to give you some idea of what it's all about, here are some metrics that we've got over this global plant productivity dashboard. I'm not going to go into any details here, but what I'd like to do is show you some examples of drilling into more specific information. All right, so now I've drilled into a particular plant, which is Bangalore, and line item 17, and I'd like to understand a bit more about the data that we have here on this dashboard. So I can ask the question like, what are the leading causes of downtime? Now this is sending some metadata to the LLM, and the LLM is going to respond with a query back to Spotfire that it can use in order to answer that question. So if I then create a data view and resubmit it, it will send the actual data back to the LLM, which then summarizes it. So it says here that the unscheduled down is the leading cause. But that doesn't tell me about the actual causes. And I happen to know that we've got some issues with pump failure and many other types of downtime. So let me just ask the question about to help to create a visualization. So if I visualize this, I'm looking at losses down to pump failure, power interruption, and sometimes it doesn't actually give me what I want. So in this case, it's still trying to produce a query. So I'm just going to say, no, actually, I want a visualization, please. And so hopefully this time it's going to give me what I want. But the key thing to remember with Copilot is that you can refine the responses you get from the LLM and just change it to whatever you suit. So in this case, we've got a line chart, but actually I want a bar chart. So, oh no, I want a bar chart. So if I do that, then it should give me a bar chart, a stacked bar chart over time. Yeah, great. So that's what I was after. So if I now create this visualization, well, it all looks well and good, but I'm not really an expert in data analysis yet. So I'm going to ask Spotfire to Copilot to explain that visualization. So now I select that visualization, and it's going to send the data behind the visualization to the LLM and look out for trends over time, outliers, and in other interesting observations. So when that comes back, I will start to show you some of those. So these are the responses it's come back with. And it really tells you, and imagine I was the plant manager, it actually tells me exactly what I need to go go and target in order to improve my overall equipment effectiveness. So in this case, there's spikes in pump failures, so I might want to look at that. Power interruptions don't seem to be a big issue. Vacuum leaks and change chemicals are fairly stable, but we've got some various outliers and we've got some missing data for March 2014. So those are all the things that I would target. So I'm not a data function expert in Spotfire. I don't really know how to code using Python. So I can use Copilot to get me started with creating Python data functions. So if I request a data function to forecast 6 months in advance using exponential smoothing and see what Copilot comes up with. Right now you can see within my analysis, I don't have any data functions registered. So if I create that data function and take a look at the script, you can see that the LM has coded it all for me, and it set up the input parameters and the output parameters. Then all I would have to do is connect those up to my data tables and run that data function, and I'd be all good.
All right. Thank you, Andrew, for this great demo on OEE. So let's bring everything back to our customers. We have talked to tens of customers and partners at this point who are at different stages of adoption. Like any new technology, some are laggards, and several of them are actually in the leader position with real use cases that we are very actively and deeply working with them to enable them. A big piece of advice here is that you always want to start simple and impactful. There's no shortage of shiny topics, especially in this new generative AI era. But like any other new technology or project for in the applied field, you always want to keep your eye on the actual use case with a high impact. And in our experience, there's several of them that are fairly simple to go after, and then you can expand from there. And to connect it to the specific 3 industrial verticals that we have had more experience with our customers. In high-tech manufacturing, there are a lot of use cases where the data association needs to be done for things like root cause analysis when something goes awry, and the user can use Spotfire Copilot to quickly investigate the data and look at the associations. Many of these more advanced industries, given their sophisticated nature of their business, you have a lot of documents that can be added as added context to their experience through the Copilot. Also, for advanced users, they can use Spotfire Copilot to generate data functions, meaning more data transformations on the fly or analyses through Python or R, and Spotfire Copilot can significantly expedite that process. Life sciences, as we know, can be quite rigorous when it comes to regulations. So a lot of these are common features that we've heard relate to that, generating reports faster or helping doctors who are always short on time. Their time is so precious, helping them to generate or look at summaries or generate summaries faster. That's been a big use case we've heard. And for the manufacturing side of life sciences, actually very similar to the demo we saw, OEE and looking at the piece of equipment has been a common use case. For energy use cases, looking at some of the generational transitions for various reasons in the field, Spotfire Copilot through internal documentations can act as a connecting tissue to keep and offer the tribal knowledge that's within an industry, within a company, and provide that context right next to the analyses, right within the analyses in Spotfire. Also, I don't repeat the data functions. We are seeing a lot of that in the energy sector as well. There's some documents as well in the field where customers have things like daily drilling reports, where there are many of these documents that are semi-structured, not highly structured, yet containing very important and valuable information. So bringing that knowledge to the analyses to the employees is very helpful through Spotfire Copilot. Let's talk about under the hood now. everything we saw and heard so far, let's see how actually it happens. Uh, it will be just scratching the surface, but it will give you a fairly good idea what components exist, what Spotfire, the company, will provide to you, and what you will be providing, and how the data flows. So even if you're not highly technical, you may enjoy some of the facts here. So to orient you here, on the bottom right, you see Spotfire. That's where the end user lives. Imagine a dashboard, and the user kicks off a conversation with Spotfire Copilot. Right there, the user prompt, that piece of text, gets accompanied, depending on the nature of the conversation and the mode, with some metadata and extra context with our code, with the front end of Spotfire Copilot. It's then sent to the backend component that we call the orchestrator. This is also a official part of Spotfire Copilot. That's part of the download. It's this box. You can think of it, if you're familiar with American football, it's like your quarterback. If you're from Europe, it's like your Luka Modric in the field, if you're familiar with football or soccer. So the orchestrator has multiple components in it, depending on the intent. Let's start with a simpler one. I'll make it a little bit more advanced later. Imagine that the user wants to is deemed to want to generate a chart automatically. The orchestrator, knowing that intent and the metadata and the type of question, prepares the actual prompt, which is a combination of the user prompt and what we call the system prompt, basically instructions, and the required metadata about the data itself, and makes a call to the large language model. A key point is that even though you're seeing these names as examples here, these are examples. These are good high-level examples for a reason, like Azure OpenAI or Google Vertex or OpenAI. But again, it's agnostic. This is not something that Spotfire Copilot provides. It will be your own LLM of choice. So you can point it to any API endpoint for your LLM. When the result comes back in the response, this arrow back, the orchestrator again receives it, processes it, parses it, and in certain intents, the flow can include another round trip to the LLM, in some cases up to 3. And we have made quite a few optimizations to make that process as fast and financially efficient as possible. And when the final result is deemed to be ready for the front end Spotfire, for the end user to see, then the result comes back to Spotfire front end, and the user enjoys the result. All of this, depending on the intent or the use case, can take anywhere from a couple seconds to maybe 10 seconds. It'll also depend on how busy the LLM is and a few other factors. In certain cases, now to the left of this diagram, where there is a need for extra context, what we call the RAG architecture. Basically, the question to the large language model needs to be augmented with some extra context. So imagine that the user says, what's the definition of a rate of penetration in upstream oil and gas? The Spotfire Copilot realizes that it needs to fetch some extra content from the documents that the user, the customer, the admin persona has already uploaded here in the backend, and runs a search in real time against that backend of content. This part, the context indexer, is also agnostic. These are 2 examples. Vector database, we've actually worked quite a bit with Milvus, which is free and open source. And when the context comes back, then the orchestrator says, okay, hey, large language model, answer this question. What's the definition of rate of penetration? But only within the context of these 5 paragraphs. So the generation of text is augmented by this retrieve text. So retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. That's what people in the field call RAG. So that's the slightly more sophisticated data flow, but all of that is hidden from the end user. So in short, this whole architecture is agnostic to, you can use any LLM or any vector database or search engine. Also, we can use any LLM of your choice. But we have tested more extensively against the GPT family. And we are happy to help you with the deployment. If you have questions, you can post them now, or we'll have an email for supporting you, and we'll provide, as part of Spotfire Copilot, the front end added package to the Spotfire server and the containerized orchestrator here. The rest of it is something within your own frame of IT infrastructure. Now let's start to wrap up. Let's see. Again, biggest takeaway is the boosted efficiency with Spotfire Copilot. You can increase the time it takes for your new Spotfire users to get to the point that they can say, I'm starting to get value out of Spotfire. More advanced users, they can not only be faster in what they do, they can also have a better, more joyful experience by leaving more standard parts or routine parts of their job to Spotfire Copilot. You can bring in more people, people who may not be as familiar with Spotfire, how to work with it. Maybe it's not justified for just 1% of your work week to learn about this new tool called Spotfire for certain roles. But with Spotfire Copilot, they can start to use it because the entry level, barrier to entry is much lower. You can also, in some cases, extract insight that may be overlooked by the human eye when the user asks about insights from the data or from the visual chart. And also, a very big is the last bullet, when you can augment your analytics with the context of your own business, your own documents, and bring that right where your data and your analytics lives. Big news from very recent is that the version 1.1.0 of Spotfire Copilot is now available as of a couple of weeks ago. And with that comes a significant improvement in reliability and reduced latency. We have worked quite a bit in all of those departments. If you have tried the previous versions, you'll immediately see that. If you like to see in your organization how the flow works, who did what, how much cost you're incurring, we provide hooks to Langsmith for additional observability. The UI and UX has been improved. Both for end users and your admins to upload your own documents. You can also specifically ask for cross-table questions enabled by cross-table operation. That's enabled. And also, we have added, in the interest of more agnostic architecture, enabled more non-GPT models. With that said, we cannot finish without thanking our great partner, Microsoft. We have been working with Microsoft for more than a year now, very closely, intimately on building Spotfire Copilot. They've helped us a lot, enabled us with through multiple venues, technical and non-technical avenues. We really, really appreciate their help, and it's been a case of true partnership. Bring in use cases from specific verticals or depth of these verticals that will be valuable to Microsoft, as well as Microsoft has been helping us a lot with the technology. And at the same time, we remained true as much as we could, as much as humanly possible, to this principle of remaining agnostic, even though we have extensively tested the Spotfire Copilot against GPT and the enterprise-grade products in the Microsoft Azure ecosystem. And the call to action. If you haven't already, please go ahead and start with Spotfire Copilot. You can download it for free as long as you have a Spotfire license and you have access to any large language model. You can go to our community, which, by the way, includes many, many other assets, including accelerators, demos, articles. You can ask questions, forums, all of that. One rich segment of it is what we call Exchange. And that's where Spotfire Copilot, the most recent version, is available for you to download. And in case you have any questions, you can always reach out to us by email or through forums. We watch them regularly. Hopefully, we answered your question. If you posted it here, if it did not get to your question today, we'll make sure to reach out to you, or feel free to reach out to us through this email address or the forum. And with that, I'd like to thank my co-presenter, Andrew Berridge, and all of you who spent your time with us, and wish you a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.